the 30th of June, 2013, and I'm standing at Land's End, the furthest tip of mainland UK that you can go. And the only thing I can think of is it should be called Land Start, really, because this is the start of my journey. I'm standing there looking like a bit of a superhero in my wetsuit. It's really snug. I actually talk like this when I wear it, which is not very manly for a big expedition just about to start. It's been a very difficult journey getting to the start of this swim. It's always the hardest part, getting to the start of any big adventure. This one in particular, I struggled to convince people that it was possible. Turns out that trying to convince people that the impossible is possible is almost impossible in itself, which is ironic. I struggled to get good advice from anyone. I put loads of posts on forums online, yachting forums, ocean forums, swimming forums, and generally, within a few minutes I'd get some replies, which was exciting, and generally they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch this, you're going to die." Oh, well, okay, thanks. That's very encouraging. Next. "Oh, no, you're going to get eaten by a killer whale in Scotland. Look, here's pictures." Oh, wow, that's brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, guys. You're going to get sucked under by a massive whirlpool and land up in Australia. Like, it's not even possible, but thanks anyway, guys. So getting useful advice about this was impossible. So although I was standing there looking like a superhero in my wetsuit, inside I was bricking it. Literally, I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, though, I managed to convince 3 unsuspecting people through Twitter and Facebook to join me as my crew. I needed a crew, obviously. It was quite hard convincing people. So my first guy was my skipper, who is also a hoarder, which made life on a very small boat quite hard with all the crap he picked up on the beaches. Jez, I actually had known Jez before. I convinced him to quit his job, which was brilliant. He did that, and he was going to skipper the boat. He hadn't really skippered a big expedition before, but, we needed that gung-ho attitude, really. I then had Owen, another unsuspecting person I found on the internet. He had been on a ferry once, so I thought, well, that's all right. He's done something on the water. I'm happy with that. Then I had Em in the kayak. I needed someone to be in the kayak next to me. I often swim off to the left. I dislocated my shoulder doing the cheese rolling in Gloucester, so I swim off to the left really quickly, which became quite fun for the crew to just throw things at me like dead fish. Em had never kayaked in her life, though, and she was petrified of the water. Literally, at times, she was nearly crying. But, what the 3 of them lacked in skill, they had in passion and drive, and they truly believed that swimming the length of Britain, something that not only had never been done, had never even been attempted before, and that's what I needed, people like that. We then had another crew member, which is the little boat we had, Friday Weil. 26-foot yacht is all I could afford, built in 1961, falling apart, no running water, no hot water, no shower, very minimalistic, and this was the inside of Friday. Pretty cramped, but that's where 4 of us were going to live for 2 months, or so I thought. But we were ready to go. We were standing there overlooking the ocean, somewhere where I was going to spend 2 months, is submerged and connecting with the environment and the people as I made my way up the coast. So I started. The summer started off quite well. We've had a great summer this year. The waves weren't too big. The scenery was spectacular. Cornwall, we think of Cornwall as being really busy. There's loads of people, but actually when you're out at sea, we're exploring amazing coasts and amazing coves. We're finding shipwrecks. It was incredible. But after the first day, we came across another problem, is we're all seasick, all of us. And obviously, the most important thing to do when one of your crew is ill is obviously to take a photo, which is what you do. And then after that, you go and ask them if they're okay. So I knew I would get seasick. The crew on their application form said, "Oh, well, we don't think we do." They were wrong. They do. We all got seasick. So that delayed us for about a day or 2. But we slowly got our sea legs, and we carried on, exploring the great British coastline. We live in an incredible island. This town is just in Devon, north coast of Devon. It's called Clovelly, privately owned. One man owns that entire town. If you want to rent a cottage in that town, you have to go for an interview with him. And he's a wonderful gentleman. Let me stay there for free. Let us moor the yacht out there. It was brilliant to experience all these different places along the coastline. Wild camping, you know. The way the tides work in the UK is you've got 6 hours of tide that push you up, and it's great. You can do some good mileage as you make your way up the coast. When the tide turns and runs back, you can't swim against it. There's nothing you can do. So it was forced exploration time. It was great. So in the evening, we'd go ashore, catch some fish, and it was becoming a great British adventure, which is exactly what I wanted it to be. I wanted to connect endurance with exploration. I didn't want it to be just this really hardcore swim. I'm not a swimmer. I actually hadn't swum at all in the sea in training. I just didn't have the time. I live in Cheltenham, so all the training I did was in a pool. I wish I had done it in the sea, but just there were so many logistics that were sort of tying me down. But we're having a great adventure, and I was feeling strong. It was an amazing experience as we went up the Cornish coast. From there, we decided to cut across from Devon up to Wales. It looks like a big crossing, but actually there's an island called Lundy Island, which used to be occupied by pirates back in the day. It's incredible, great history. So that divided up the crossing, so the crossing wasn't that bad. Once we reached Wales, the original plan was to go up the inside of Wales, cross to the Isle of Man, another crossing to Scotland, and another crossing across a big loch to the Mull of Kintyre. It would have been 3 big crossings. But then one day we were in the pub, as you do, when you sort of on the downtime when you can, and we were on the map. We saw a bit of land off to the west. We thought, what is that? Is that an island? We zoomed out, and in fact it was Ireland. We thought, how is Ireland? We didn't think Ireland was that close. So after a few snake bites and things like that, obviously not me, the crew got a bit excited here. We thought, literally, let's just swim to Ireland. For no other reason than it sounded cool. It sounded like a cool thing to do, swimming to Ireland. So that's what we did. We pointed towards the sunset, and we just went. And that was it. 4 days at sea of nothing. When it's overcast, I was going all over the place. There was times when the boat would go off, Em would be sleeping in the kayak or scared, and I would literally swim back on myself with my dodgy left shoulder. And they'd throw a fish at me and say, turn north, and that sort of thing. But it was great. It was a great sense of adventure, just going out into the middle of nowhere. Obviously, crossing a big channel, things like ships. At the beginning, we'd radio through to the Coast Guard, say, there's a swimmer in the water. And they'd be like, there's what? Our coordinates are middle of the Irish Sea. They're like, really? They literally would start laughing. They'd just be, ho, ho, ho. They thought we were joking. But eventually, the ocean-based community started getting behind it, and it was great. Finally, we're ticking off every now and then. Every day I went further, people were starting to go, what? This guy might actually make it, And it was a great feeling getting to know the community, the sea-based community. I had another nemesis in the ocean, which was the jellyfish, lion's mane jellyfish. There were hundreds of them, and I kept getting stung in the face, and it was horrible. You'd be swimming along, and I'd just headbutt one, and we'd both get a bit of a fright, and it would swim off and go, ha ha, and I'd be stinging and burning for about 6 hours at a time. I tried everything. The crew offered to pee on me, which obviously declined, and thank God, because apparently that doesn't work at all. It's an urban myth. So I decided, well, the only thing that can probably help me is growing a beard. So I started to grow this ridiculous beard, and that actually became a thing that actually did really help me from the jellyfish. The other thing I tried is the jellyfish were really bad at night, and because the tides move an hour each day, sometimes I was getting up at 10 in the morning for my first session, sometimes it was 1 in the morning, so I'd have to be swimming along in the dark. So you can see there I've got a bandana. The only bit of my skin that was showing was my nose and my cheeks, because I had a cap on and the beard was sheltering my face from the jellyfish. So I had a bandana, and that kind of worked. It almost suffocated me a few times, but I thought, I'll be fine. Night was really hard because there's nothing. You can't really, you don't know where you're going. There's a light, there's the boat lights, the lights in the kayak, and you're a bit disoriented. But with the nighttime came, without a doubt, the best experience of my life. Has anyone watched Life of Pi? When the whale jumps out and all those phosphorescence are everywhere, I experienced that in the Irish Sea. I had no idea phosphorescence sort of existed in such numbers. I'd be, with every stroke, there'd be glitter balls coming off my fingertips and looking below me, and as I'd kick my legs, it was just an explosion of light. And it was magical. I'd go into this world of Narnia and things like that, and then all of a sudden get stung in the face by a jellyfish, which ruined it all. But it was incredible having pretty much the best experience of my life, but then pretty much the worst experience of my life together. I don't think my brain could cope with it all that well. But eventually, after 4 days, that was the route. You can see because the tides rush up and down, we get pushed up, and then at times you're swimming. Although we're going swimming towards Ireland, there were times where I was swimming further away from John O'Groats, which was a bit annoying because you're swimming that way and John O'Groats is there. You're like, really, guys? But that's just, you had to make the most of the tides. But we were in Ireland. We'd swum across to Ireland. We didn't have passports. We had no ID or anything. We actually hadn't thought this through. We got like near the harbour into Ireland. We thought, are they going to let us in? How does this work? To this day, no one has ever checked any of our IDs or anything. We spent nearly a month in Ireland going into every port. We could have been pirates or anything. No one ever checked, but it was just something we just didn't think of. By now, I was feeling quite confident. I was a little bit behind schedule, but feeling good. I've been watching Big River Man on DVD, which I had on my laptop, which is a guy called Martin Strull, probably the world's most famous open water swimmer. Recently swam the Amazon River with piranhas and everything. Incredible guy. And he famously drinks 2 liters of wine every day while he's swimming. So I thought, I'm a big swimmer now. I'm going to give it a go. So there we are. I was taking my lunch break with some wine and some stew in a bowl. It does not work. I do not recommend it. It made the water look a lovely color when I threw it up later, though, which wasn't fun. But throwing up was just something that I was doing quite a lot, with a gag reflex, with salt going onto into your stomach. After a while, my body was just rejecting the salt. I was having too much salt. I had to cut all the salt out of my diet, which made food really horrible. By now, I was also struggling to actually chew. The water was so cold. I was losing all my body fat. I had to liquidize my meals, so I became known as the child on board. So the crew would be, child, feed time, and I have to drink all this, puree food out of a bottle, which wasn't very manly at all. But Ireland was incredible. The people were incredible. I made some friends at sea, and that there's a seal. I put this picture on Facebook and Twitter, and everyone was like, ha, which one's the seal? I was like, oh, really, guys? Thanks. Wow. But it was great. The dolphins and seals were really inquisitive, and they'd come within a few meters of us. Em in the kayak would be quite scared at times. She was still petrified of the water. To this day, she's still petrified of the water. And even though Owen was seasick at the beginning as well, we were all getting over it. We were overcoming those obstacles together as a team, and I couldn't have done it without them. And it was an incredible experience. Then, unfortunately, my skipper, Jez, my mate, he got offered a job. I was now a few weeks behind schedule, and he just had to take this job. He's a teacher. It was the beginning of the year. If he didn't take this job, it was likely he was going to be unemployed for another year. So I'm now on Ireland, stuck with another problem. What am I going to do? A skipper is the one crew member that I needed to skipper the boat. Without a skipper, I couldn't do anything. So Jez left, and I was stuck. I thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just go onto Twitter and Facebook and find someone. But it turns out if you can skipper a boat, you probably own one and have something better to do than follow a swimmer. But anyway, after about 10 days of searching, I found Lou, who flew in from Dubai, straight, literally hadn't even been home, came on board. We're now in Scotland, an incredible place. Scotland, though, although we thought it was the final leg, we thought, right, this is the home stretch. Turned out it was the hardest part of all. Huge, big whirlpools, crazy tides, big waves. You see there, I'm swimming. My arm didn't even leave the waves. So as you're swimming along, your arms are just getting hammered. It was really struggling. I lost loads of weight. Again, obviously I'm pulling my stomach in there, but I normally can't do that. I went down to below 10 stone, and for a dude, that's not cool. To be lighter than most girls, that's when they generally slap you. I kind of got frostbite in my toes. I had such lack of blood flowing into my extremities from being in cold water for so long that they just started to bruise and lose oxygenation in the blood. I went to the doctor for the first time, and he said, oh, you shouldn't lose it. I was like, oh, brilliant, thanks. But, if the blue goes up your leg, then give us a call. I was like, wow, brilliant. We had engine failure on the boat. Again, something I didn't think of. If the boat broke, I couldn't afford to buy a new one. I also ran out of money at this point. There were so many things that were just making this expedition difficult. But I managed to crowdsource some money. Owen, turns out, is great at fixing boats. He didn't put that on his application, but I'm glad he could, because without him, I don't know what I would have done. Scotland in November is not fun to swim in. There's some snow on the mountains there. The water's freezing. My jaw's cold. I'm losing weight. Pushing forward, the weather gets bad, and this is Owen and Lou on the back, toughing it out with all these bad conditions. Good on them. There was no shower on the boat for any of us. But we were making progress slightly. Coming around Cape Wrath, we thought, right, once we reach Cape Wrath, that'll be it, right? We'd have made it. We'd have finally got to the end. But unfortunately, Cape Wrath destroyed us nearly. We nearly sank. We lost the kayak. We lost the rib. We broke paddles. It was really depressing because we thought, well, this is it. It's November in Scotland. Why am I swimming here? No one swims in Scotland in November. And there was a real sort of kind of idea that we might have to finish this next year. Imagine that. I've been going for 4 months now, 2 months over schedule, and I might not be able to finish the last 40 miles. But finally, after 135 days, the Scottish weather opened out and was good to us, which no one in history has ever said before, but it did. We had some good weather in Scotland, and I finally arose out the sea looking like a hairy Viking to John O'Groats. At this point, I had so many things I wanted to say. I'd been rehearsing them in my mind. I knew the media were going to be there. I wanted to tell people that whatever you believe in, go for it. The famous philosopher Will Smith once said, "Don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do." And it's very true, and I firmly believe that we're all a lot more physically and mentally capable than we give ourselves credit for. And it's just being daring to go out there. I knew this swim was possible. It was just finding a way of making it possible. Unfortunately, I didn't say any of those things. I got out the water, cried like a girl, and talked about my beard a lot. Thank you very much.